In this video, I'm going to go through our Draw tab here in AutoCAD. So I have open in front of me already my template, I've gone through my Tulsa setup, and I'm ready to actually start drawing on here. Now, if you take a look at my ribbon here, I'm looking at my Home tab, and we're going to start by just taking a look at what's called the user interface. So what you're actually going to use as the designer behind everything here. So this big area in the middle here, this is called our graphics window. You can see it because it kind of has like little, it's got a grid on it, kind of like graph paper. And in your graphics window, this is where you do all of the designing. This is where all of the drawing happens and all the editing happens. It all happens here in the graphics window is what it's called. Now up at the top here, you see our toolbar that runs along the entire top of our screen here. This is called the ribbon. Now you guys are probably familiar with the ribbon because I know a lot of the Microsoft Office products use it, and actually it's become a very common way to show tools and programs these days, and all of the Autodesk programs utilize the ribbon. So when I mention the ribbon, I mean this big toolbar here at the very top. Now along the top of the ribbon, we have what are called tabs. So right now, where my mouse is circling, you'll see it says Home. If I say go to the View tab, you're going to skim along the top and click on the View tab here at the top. So these are our tabs, and inside all of our tabs we have what are called panels. So here on the left hand side I have my Draw panel, and right beside my Draw panel I have my Modify panel. So when I mention a panel, I just mean these sections right here that are divided. You can see it's divided by a little line here showing you what belongs in which panel. Okay, so we're going to take a look at our Draw panel right here. And in our Draw panel, these are our 2D shapes that we're going to use to create, well, we're going to use them to create our designs. So let's take a look at the line to start with. Now you're going to left click on the line button, and then you're going to take a look at your mouse. And right beside your mouse, it's going to tell you what to do. AutoCAD is trying to be smart, it's trying to get you set up, and it's trying to help you out. So it says specify first point. So all you're going to do is pick a point. So I left click once, and now I'm just moving my mouse around, and you can see that it's asking me to pick my next point, because right now a single point does not a line make. Instead, we need at least 2 points to make a line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. So you'll notice when my mouse comes up to 90 degrees, it shows up with this green dotted line. These are called tracking lines, so they're not part of the drawing. It goes away when my mouse moves, but it's just helping me out, saying, hey, if you click along this line, you're going to have a perfectly horizontal, not crooked line. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle, or finish my line by going out here, and all I did was left click once. Now I still have the line command attached to my mouse, and the line command is actually going to stay open until I choose to close it. So you could continue to draw lines like this for as long as you wanted. When you're done with the line command, you hit escape on your keyboard. And notice that my mouse closed the line command and I'm no longer drawing any more lines. Now let's say I made a mistake in my design and I wanted to delete it. I'm not going to hit the undo button. Instead, I'm just going to left click on that line, and I'm going to hit the delete button on my keyboard. And I'm going to do that line by line. So I'm going to left click, hit delete on my keyboard, one line at a time here. And I'm going to go back so that the only line I have left on my screen is that very first one that I drew. Now I'm going to go up and start the line command again up on the ribbon here. So I'm going to click on line once again. My mouse tells me to specify my first point, and I'm going to start at the far right hand side of this line. Now notice what happens when I move my mouse close to this line. That little green square pops up. That's called a snap point. So when I talk about snaps, this is a snap point, because as my mouse gets close to it, my mouse snaps onto that point and says, hey, I think you want to click here, which I do. So I'm going to left click once. Going to move my mouse straight up so that I get that tracking line telling me that my line is perfectly straight or perfectly vertical. Going to left click again, and now let's just close out this rectangle. So I'm going to move my mouse to the left, and I want this rectangle to line up with this first point. So we're going to use our tracking lines now. I'm going to hover, not click. I'm going to just hover my mouse over this left point down here. Then I'm going to move my mouse straight up. And I'm going to move it straight up until I get both of those tracking lines on my screen. And you'll notice they're showing me that my corners are all 90 degrees, that my line is perfectly horizontal, and there's no weird angle happening. So I'm going to left click. And then I'm going to move my mouse straight down, following that tracking line until my snap point shows up, so that green square. I'm going to left click, and remember to close out the line command, we're just going to hit escape on our keyboard. So now we have a rectangle drawn on our screen. So let's talk a little bit about zooming in and out with our mouse now. So on your mouse, if you take a look at it in your hand, there's a little roller button in the middle. So we have the left hand side, which you click on. We have the right hand side, which you click on. And then we have the little wheel in the middle. And if you move that wheel in and out, so why don't you just roll it with your finger right now? Notice what happens to your screen. It zooms in and out, just like this. So that little wheel comes in handy a lot when, let's say I drew my rectangle, but my rectangle was so big it came off my screen like this. Well, I'm gonna roll that little wheel button so that I can see my full rectangle on my screen. Now, let's say my rectangle was off the screen to the left like this, and I wanted to drag it onto the screen. What you can do with that little wheel button on your mouse is you can click and hold it, and you're gonna get this little hand symbol on the screen. And this little hand symbol, it's like it's grabbing a paper. That's what it's doing here. It's grabbing your paper, and if you hold and move your mouse, you can actually drag your design or your screen around. So that's all I did there, is I didn't zoom in or out, I just grabbed and dragged my rectangle back onto the screen. That's called panning. So we've learned about our zoom button, we've learned about our panning button, and we've taken a look at our draw tab here, specifically the line command. So let's move on. In your draw tab here, you have all sorts of geometry or shapes that you can use. We started with the line command, and with the line command you can draw pretty much anything that uses straight sides. Now let's jump over to our circle command here. So if we click on our circle command, and notice what our mouse is saying, it's saying specify the center point. So let's just pan over here, let's click a point, and let's draw a circle. So notice when you clicked your point, you're picking the center point of the circle. When you move your mouse in or out, you're deciding how big the circle is going to be. So I'm going to just left click again, and it places the circle. Now notice that unlike the line command, which stayed open so I could continue to draw lines until I hit escape on my keyboard, the circle command actually stops after I draw one circle. So if I wanted to draw another circle, I would have to go up to my draw panel, I'd have to click on circle again, and I'd have to draw a second circle just like that on my screen. And if we go through our draw panel here, you'll see there are a bunch of different options. We have our arcs here, which is a partial portion of a circle here, so you get a curved line without getting a full circle. We have what's called a 2-point rectangle, and this works if I grab it. You just pick the bottom left corner, and you pick the top right corner. It's very similar to when you're typing your limits into your Tulsa setup by doing the bottom left and then the top right. If I hit the drop down beside the rectangle, we have a polygon, and this, like you can see, draws a shape that has more than just 4 sides. So if I select polygon, let's take a look at what my mouse says. It says, how many sides do you want? Well, let's say I want a 6-sided polygon. I'm going to type in 6 on my keyboard and hit enter. Now it says pick the center point of your polygon. So I'm just going to click a space on my screen. And now you have 2 options here. For right now, I'm just going to choose inscribed in circle. And now, just like with the circle, you move your mouse in or out to decide how big you want your 6-sided polygon to be. You left click again to place your polygon. So that's the way the draw panel works. You choose which geometry you want to draw, and then using the left clicker on your mouse, you draw either your lines, your rectangles, your circles, your arcs, etc. You draw that in your graphics window here on your screen. and you can zoom in or out, and you can pan, and you can select and delete as needed.